You're listening to the Frontier Tech Hub, supported by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Thanks for tuning into this story.
Beating the heat. Can AI supercharge school retrofit projects in Tanzania? It's the Utafiti Elimu Conference in Tanzania 2024, and Maurizio Nambatia is sweating. Maurizia is sitting in a large conference room with oppressive heat all around her. There are fans, rhythmically passing to and fro in seemingly futile gestures. Other attendees in the room have taken matters into their own hands by fanning themselves with books, mustering whatever breeze they can. In short, it's hot. And the irony isn't lost on Maurizia, who later told us about the events. The conference theme was on climate, education and the environment, and the policymakers who were in the room were facing it squarely. So it wasn't something far-fetched. We were in a large space, abundant, and we had to try and translate what we're experiencing to the classrooms, Maurizia said. Learning in the heat. Maurizia is a civil engineer working in sustainable construction for Halibari Youth Trust Uganda. She's seen how hot classrooms in Tanzania can get, where temperatures regularly exceed 35 degrees Celsius, making it really hard for children to learn. She told us that you feel the heat and discomfort straight on. There are classrooms which are packed to the extent that the teacher doesn't have anywhere to teach from. But the classes push on, they don't stop. Research suggests that people have a thermal comfort zone which is different for every person, and the temperature of a classroom could have significant impacts on their learning. In other words, it's one thing for a child to attend a 2-hour lesson, and another as to how much is actually learnt. Recently, there have been efforts to explore how classroom conditions in Tanzania can be improved by school retrofits. Contextually appropriate retrofits include painting roofs with reflective colours and using different construction materials to reduce classroom temperatures. Other conditions like light and sound can impact learning, and retrofits can improve these too. The Frontier Tech Hub, a UK FCDO-funded programme, is exploring if artificial intelligence can be used to prioritise individual schools most in need of temperature-focused retrofits. This could have a real, tangible impact on learning in Tanzania and across similar environments, because it would help maximise money spent on improving learning outcomes by donors and governments. But why artificial intelligence? And how did we get here? For that, we're going to have to step back into the classroom. From research papers to rapid models. Jamie Proctor works in the Research and Evidence Department of the FCDO and is currently based in Ghana, leading the West Africa Research and Innovation Hub. Jamie has a background in school construction with a passion for building more and better schools in order to improve learning outcomes for children. From 2012, he helped to establish an NGO called the Malambi Project, which works in Malawi to support sustainable and climate-friendly classroom construction. He went on to study a sustainable construction MSc alongside his role at the FCDO. Jamie told us that with the Malambi project, he was very hands-on in terms of trying different building methods, building materials, and building styles. One thing he always wanted to look at was the classroom temperature, as it was often the biggest challenge to children learning. Later, as part of his master's, he did a module on building physics, where he built a heat flow model from first principles looking at a classroom block in Malawi. It was built on Google Sheets and included formulas for heat going in, another for heat going out, through the walls, through the roof, with solar gains, etc. That model showed that the heat flow from the roof is the biggest determinant in classroom temperatures for a basic classroom block. Jamie then explored how different retrofit interventions would have an impact on classroom temperatures. He tested a particular intervention in Tanzania as part of his dissertation, painting roofs white. Out of that, they had the basis for various projections to make the direct link between classroom environment and temperature. Jamie built on the concept in his role at the FCDO with Senior Education Advisor Colin Bangay and sourced funds from the East Africa Research Hub to lead 2 complementary pieces of research. Specifically, the organisations Fab Inc. and Laterite studied the classroom experience in Tanzania, and Open Devid, ODE, explored retrofit options. Jamie set up a steering group called CLEAR for advice and input into the studies, including from donors, to ensure that infrastructure investments could better be informed. Jamie says that the really important thing for this work is it's moving away from where infrastructure investments hadn't worked so well, which is where it's seen as kind of always a good thing, towards it being seen as something that can be a good thing if it is done in a very, very cost-effective way, with people looking at what the learning outcome is. This targeted approach has continued with the Frontier Tech Hub. Jamie has worked with the hub to bring in a research partner to explore if AI could assess indoor classroom temperatures and understand the data collection needed to create a model of sufficient accuracy. Björn Hassler, CEO of OpenDevEd, is leading the team working on this. OpenDevEd were tasked to evaluate existing literature, which to now has focused on predicting smart building temperatures in predominantly high-income contexts. Bjorn told us that we know there's some kind of basic physical modelling that can be done, but the research literature says there are significant improvements that can be made on that through the use of artificial intelligence. According to Bjorn, when we talk about AI, most of the time what's in the news is about large language models, which is a fairly recent development. The AI we're talking about here is neural networks, which is something that's been around for probably about 30 years or so, but has found a really important application in this sort of building temperature control. While reviewing the past work, Björn and Jamie realised that they needed a practical next step to test emerging ideas. They subsequently invited Omdena to lead the challenge that would allow different AI models to be tested rapidly. Omdena is a platform helping mission-driven organizations and startups build impactful AI solutions through global collaboration, and empowers AI engineers from all over the world to become changemakers. Duplex Yoon Kap Nina is project manager for this challenge and sees Omdena's success as coming from its openness to people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. The challenge format allows machine learning engineers and domain experts to work hand in hand with more experienced counterparts, who in some cases are paid as top-level talent. Most importantly, it offers people the opportunity to work on real-world problems and real-world data, the holy grail for data scientists. Duplex told us that you have people from an academic background who lack experience. For example, he's a computer engineer by education, and his career is an air traffic controller. But he also has a passion for software engineering, and he is an AI engineer. Duplex set up a kick-off meeting and ensured that people were split into different teams based on their interests and expertise. The teams ranged from people specialized in data collection and analysis, to AI and machine learning development, software engineering, and features like simulations. After the kickoff, the challenge had 16 active collaborators across 10 different time zones. The team quickly learned that the most promising type of model identified in the literature review, long short-term memory or LSTMs, were less successful than imagined. The team saw this as stemming from the varied climatic zones across Tanzania, which combines with the different characteristics of each school, being orientation, building material, etc., complicated the development of one particular model. During the challenge, the focus moved into hybrid models, combining physical simulations of how heat might change under certain building conditions, with multiple AI models working together, like a decision tree acting with an LSTM model. According to Björn, we don't quite know just yet what the right combination of models is, and that is part of the challenge. People are trying different models, and we'll hope to then be able to say which are the most promising. The initial results of the challenge were highly promising, and its implications are highlighted in a report authored by OpenDevEd. The ultimate aim of the tool is to use meteorological data and school building characteristics to predict the maximum indoor classroom temperature of a building, or the number of days per year above a certain temperature. Whereas many of these measures can be taken remotely from satellite images, one of the core recommendations of the report was that extra data collection will be needed to build the model, especially of different classrooms within the same school, to help build a more accurate model. The hope is that indoor classroom temperatures across Tanzania can be estimated in a cost-effective way instead of the infeasible approach of measuring temperature directly using sensors in every location. The impact of this on international development support is clear. Björn told us that they normally select a set of schools that are in a priority region, but then within that priority region, they treat all schools the same. Sometimes that's not best for investment. It's quite good to have a very detailed model that says, right, these schools need ceiling boards, these schools need new roofs, and those assessments are often quite difficult to do. But with this data, it could become much easier to do that, and therefore to target. That would allow the government to assess the building stock, as it were, and say these schools have more than 20, 50, or 100 days of these very hot temperatures, and these are the schools that we should direct donor funds to. The collective effort needed. This project is just the beginning of exploring this topic, and the next step, according to Björn, is the data collection needed to build an accurate model. I want to be in a place where we have a temperature prediction for every single school in sub-Saharan Africa, because we know where those schools are, he said. We know what the climate parameters are, and if we can gather the right data from space, the question is how much data is needed before you can make a good prediction for all schools in Tanzania, all schools in East Africa, all schools in tropical Africa, There is optimism that this initial work will encourage organisations like the World Bank to conduct a data collection campaign in Tanzania, or even lead an AI challenge looking to explore this topic further. The hope of improving classroom conditions and therefore learning outcomes through retrofits is still an emerging field, but how it can inform donor decision-making can't be more pressing for Jamie and the wider FCDO.
Thanks for listening to this Frontier Tech audio story. To discover more stories like this one, you can visit frontiertechhub.org.